you have to listen carefully. I'm saying combat sports. Yeah, I'm not saying football. I'm not saying basketball because listen, I know there's some great iconic athletes that have come out of Africa. Do you know what I mean? Especially like football, you go Didier Drogba, you go George Weah, you go JJ Okocha, you go Samuel Eto'o. In basketball, you go Mutombo Dikembe, you go yeah, listen, you got Giannis who's in the NBA at the moment. You've got so many outside of combat sports, you've got so many other athletes who have done incredible, amazing things for Africa. I'm just talking combat sports. I'm talking boxing, MMA. What do you know what I mean? Where there's physical contact, where guys are throwing punches and really trying to hurt each other. Is Francis Ngannou the greatest of all time coming out of Africa in terms of combat sports? And after that win he had in a PFL over the weekend where he beat Renan Ferreira and he became the PFL heavyweight champion, I was thinking to myself like, yo, we've never really seen this type of story, this kind of story. Like Francis Ngannou, who's from Cameroon, was working in the sand mines, whatever, carrying buckets of water, carrying sand in his head and everything like that. Just the hardships that he grew up on. Then moved to France. He was homeless, found refuge in a gym, started training boxing, then became an MMA fighter. Went to America, joined the UFC, was knocking everyone out. He had his first title shot against Stipe Miocic, lost that largely because of inexperience. He didn't really have championship experience and he kind of gassed himself out. Came back, had a second bite of the cherry and won the title in the UFC, became the heavyweight champion in a UFC. Do you know what I mean? Like UFC is the biggest MMA promotion in the world. Do you know what I mean? So that's like a big achievement. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. There's other UFC champions like Israel Adesanya, uh Kamaru Usman, but I think these two they grew up. I think Israel Adesanya grew up in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me in the comments, please. And Kamaru Usman, he grew up in America as well. But Francis Ngannou actually like born in Africa, grew up in Africa, then moved to Europe when he was an adult, I believe. So Francis Ngannou, for everything that he's achieved, does that make him the greatest combat sports person to come out of Africa? It's not just what he's achieved in the UFC. Like the guy went over to boxing, yeah. So after his contract negotiations went south with the UFC, decided to part ways, came over to boxing, fought the two biggest names in boxing. Do you know what I mean? Like AJ and Fury, you cannot get bigger than these two right now in boxing. Even though AJ Fury, they're kind of in the decline, but in terms of their name, brand name, you can't get any bigger than that. The guy went in there, tested himself. He didn't come out victorious in either of those fights, especially against AJ where he got viciously knocked out. But against Tyson Fury, who was the heavyweight champion of the world at that time, he knocked down Tyson Fury and gave him a fright. Like in many people's eyes, Francis Ngannou won that fight against Tyson Fury. So, everything that he's done, the impact that he's had on the sport, like his story, like just everything. Let's put everything, like obviously, let's put everything into context. Like everything he's achieved, and on Saturday night, again, produced an amazing performance. Like and again, he showed a lot of growth with the grappling. He tried submissions and he finished the guy. This Renan Ferreira is massive. He's huge, man. He's a knockout artist. So there was a lot of jeopardy going into this fight for Francis Ngannou. He had a lot to lose here. He just got knocked out by AJ in boxing. Coming back to MMA, if he got knocked out here as well, yeah, and lost, you know what I mean? You know how people start talking and everything like that, saying, oh, maybe he's not that guy. But he went in there, handled business, and he knocked out Renan Ferreira. And after all these achievements that I've just mentioned to you, the way he's gravitated so many people into the sport, combat sport, the impact that it's probably had on kids back in Africa who want to get into combat sport, boxing, MMA, and stuff like that. Like, he must be such an inspiration to so many kids. So many, so many kids now want to be the next Francis Ngannou. So many kids now understand that it doesn't really matter, the hardships that I'm coming from, the struggles, the poverty. I can make it. Do you know what I mean? I can make it. Francis Ngannou can make it, can do what he's done and achieve what he's achieved. So can I. Do you know what I mean? So based on all of that, does that make him the greatest combat sports person coming out of Africa? For me, I say yes. I'm just going, listen, I'm just going from the top of my head, yeah. I haven't seen that. Not in this, not in my generation. Not since I've been alive. I haven't really seen that. But if I'm wrong, listen, I'm happy to be challenged here. I'm happy for someone to throw names at me and we can talk about it. Do it. Throw a name at me, throw it. Write it down in the comments and let's have a conversation about it, because to me, what Francis Ngannou has achieved in combat sport, like, I haven't seen no person from Africa that's really done that. Now, obviously, as you know, yeah, before you come on YouTube and you start talking things, like, if I want to come up with such a bold statement, that Francis Ngannou is the greatest combat sports athlete to come out of Africa, yeah, obviously I have to do my research in it. So I had to do a bit of digging as well. I was trying to find athletes, boxers, MMA fighters. Maybe I thought to myself, have I missed something out here? Now, the names that spring out here, obviously, look, the first thing you do, you go on Google, right? Try and Google these fighters. You type it in. So I typed it in, greatest African combat sports athlete of all time. Now the name that I'm getting, that the name that really stood out, is Ozuma Nelson. I think I hope I'm saying that right. Nelson, Ozume Nelson. Now he's from Ghana. He's a boxer. He had a total of 47 fights. He had 39 wins and 2 draws. Yeah. So he says here that he was considered by many to be the greatest African boxer of all time. He's a three-time world. He is a 3-time world champion in 2 weight classes. At the 1978 Commonwealth Games, he won a gold medal in the featherweight class. Do you know what I mean? So Azume Nelson of the Ghana, he's considered to be the greatest boxer who came out of Africa. Do you know what I mean? So, and I never heard of that name, actually. I never heard of that name. It's understandable. He wasn't born in my era. He's not my generation. He was fighting back in the 70s, late 70s and stuff like that. So I decided to check him out as well. Like, I watched some of his highlights. Nah, he's slick, man. He's slick. He had power as well. He's slick. He's slick. But I don't want to be like one of those guys that, them guys that live like it's all about the moment. Francis Ngannou is the guy right now. Then his name's ringing bells and then I'm just claiming like, yo, he's the one. He's the greatest of all time. That's not what I'm trying to do. When I'm judging a fighter, when I'm judging a fighter and claiming that, yo, this guy is the greatest of all time, I'm looking at the whole impact that he's had on the sport. Like the people that he's been able to inspire. People that transcend the sport. Francis Ngannou has been able to do that. Now, all listen, respect to Azuma Nelson. He's a boxer. Listen, he's achieved a lot in it, and he's considered the greatest African boxer of all time. He's from Ghana, so listen, respect to him. No disrespect to him at all. But I haven't heard. I really didn't hear about him until I had to research him. And a lot of the time you don't hear about certain athletes, certain fighters until you Google them. So I didn't really hear about him, so I didn't really know much about him. In fact, I knew nothing about him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not really spoken about a lot in the boxing scene, especially here in Europe and America and stuff like that. So I didn't really know about him. But Francis Ngannou, he's known worldwide, man. All around the world, Francis Ngannou is known. Do you know what I mean? Francis Ngannou for me has had a bigger impact than any other African combat sports person. Yeah. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about combat sports, boxing, MMA, any sports that has physical contact where people are throwing hands and fighting and stuff like that. For me, Francis Ngannou is the greatest. Just based on the impact that he's had. Do you know what I mean? He's come over from Africa, homeless in France as an immigrant, got involved into MMA, went over to America, UFC, became the UFC heavyweight champion, knocking everyone out, winning in style. Then he decided to leave the same organization that basically gave him the opportunity because now he felt like they were going against him. He decided to take another chance on himself. Yeah, he believed in himself, took the leap of faith, whatever you call it. Yeah, signed a contract with the PFL. They then allowed him to have some, room to maneuver where he can go over to the boxing. Yeah, boxed Tyson Fury, boxed against AJ, made money while he's doing it. Even though he lost, made money. He's come back into MMA, went in against a giant. Do you know what I mean? He went in against another knockout artist and he knocked him out. I mean, what other African combat athlete do you know has done that? You let me know. Write in the comments. I don't see no one else. So for me, that makes Francis Ngannou, with his story and everything, is so inspirational. It makes him the greatest African combat athlete of all time. Do you know what I mean? There might be other ones that might come out. Obviously, listen, it takes someone to kick down those doors. You know what I mean? And Francis Ngannou, he's done it. He's now inspired so many other kids. Do you know what I mean? That will become, because Africa's full of talent. Africa is full of talent. The only reason why you don't see a lot of it, coming out is because a lot of the time they don't have the platform. You know what I mean? The foundations are not there for them to really flourish and shine and showcase their skills. But with guys like Francis Ngannou, Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, all these African guys, and I forgot, let me not forget the UFC fighter from South Africa as well. What's his name again? Let's say UFC fighter from South Africa. Let me see. Fight from South Africa. Yeah, Dricus Du Plessis. That's his name. Dricus Du Plessis. Do you know what I mean? He's in the UFC. He's from South Africa. He's inspiring a lot of kids as well to take up MMA. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be more fighters, coming out, especially in mixed martial arts scene. There's gonna be more fighters coming from Africa because there's been so many African champions in the UFC. You had Kamaru Usman, Dricus Du Plessis, Israel Adesanya, and Francis Ngannou. That's four. Do you know what I mean? So that's going to inspire a lot of kids in Africa to take up the sport. So yeah, that's my rationale around it. That's what I wanted to talk about today. For me, Francis Ngannou is the greatest combat sports person that's ever come out of Africa. Do you know what I mean? And if you think you can contradict me on that or whatever, yeah, drop in the comments and we listen. I'm happy to have that conversation with anyone, but you gotta salute Francis Ngannou and respect him for his achievements. And like I'm gonna like emphasize on this. I'm not living in a moment. I'm not like, oh my God, because Francis Ngannou is that guy right now. Like I'm just like kind of like, hanging on his name and you know what I mean, like being a fanboy. Nah, none of that. I really actually, I've really thought about this. I really, really had to like sit down. I thought about. I was like, bro, I've never seen someone have such an impact coming out of Africa. A fighter. Do you know what I mean? Having the opportunities that he's had as well. No one's really done that. He's crossed over to boxing and done his thing as well. Held his own as well. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that is it, man. That is it. If you got other names, I'm sure people will throw other names at me. I'm sure I've missed someone out. Do you know what I mean? And I always feel bad. Like, oh my God, I hope I really did miss someone out. Like, I really had to like do my research and I didn't really see no names come no standout names apart from Azuma Nelson of Ghana. You know what I mean? He's a 3-time world champion in boxing and he's considered the greatest boxer of all time from Africa. So apart from him, there's no other really other names that really stand out, fighters from Africa. So for me, it has to be Francis Ngannou, right? Do you know what I mean? Come on, let's not hate. But yeah. Let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with me? Is Francis Ngannou the greatest fighter of all time who's come out of Africa? Yeah, I'm not saying the greatest fighter of all time overall in general. No. Is he the greatest combat sports person who's come out of Africa? To me, yes. To you, it might be no, but if you do say no, who is it then? Drop a name. Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Let's talk about it. Yeah, man. I want to end it there. I hope you have a lovely day for the rest of the day. And yeah, man, I'll be back again with another one. But listen, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And it's really important. You know what I mean? You subscribing, liking, commenting. Do you know what I mean? You're helping to build this channel up. You know what I mean? You're helping to build this channel up. And that's exactly what I want to do. I'm coming every day here. We're having these conversations and it's great. Listen, I'm going to bring this content to you because I have passion for it. And I just want to have these conversations in regards to like combat sports, whether boxing, MMA, because that's what my passion is. So I want to keep bringing you this content. We're going to keep having these conversations. What I ask from you, if you're new, always like, if you want to contribute to the channel, subscribe, like, share the videos, comments, every little thing that you do will help the channel to grow. So yeah, man, if you already subscribed, love for that, man. Thanks for showing your boy support. I really appreciate it. And if you watch this video from the beginning to the end, also listen, salute, man, respect to you. I really appreciate that. Once again, thank you so much for watching EMGM Sports. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.